Welcome to this video on how to hand pollinate indoor plants. But before we talk about how to do it, let's talk about why. Pollination occurs when the pollen is transferred from the male parts of a flower to the female parts of a flower in order to fertilize a plant. Fertilization is important for a plant to produce seed. Vegetable plants that bear fruit, such as tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, eggplant, and squash, need pollination for the fruit to set. Vegetables such as carrots, beets, and broccoli can produce without pollination because their seed is not a part of the vegetable or fruit, but rather the seed is produced after the plant has already given off its produce. On the other hand, tomatoes, cucumbers, and peppers have seeds within the fruit that they bear. So they're actually producing the seed and the fruit at the same time, and therefore they need pollination for the fruit to grow. There are 4 general ways that pollination happens: animal, wind, self-pollination, and human or hand pollination. Some plants are self-pollinating. Their flowers fertilize themselves either within the same flower or from another flower on the same plant. Most plants are pollinated outdoors by animals as they go from plant to plant searching for food. This includes birds, bees, butterflies, and anything really that hops around from plant to plant. This is obviously a problem for indoor gardeners or even sometimes greenhouse gardeners. If there are no birds or bees, it's very hard for pollination to take place. Another good pollinator is the wind. This is typically how corn gets pollinated. The pollen is blown by the wind from the tassels on the top of the corn plant to the corn silk that hangs out at the end of each ear of corn. Corn is best planted in multiple adjacent rows rather than a single row for this reason. It's better for pollination. After animals and wind, the third way that plants can get pollinated is by pollinating themselves. These types of plants are called self-pollinating. A good example of this is the tomato plant. Many tomato plants are self-pollinating, though not all. Plants can sometimes pollinate themselves by having the male parts grow into contact with the female parts of the flower, especially if both parts are on the same flower. Now, what do you do if you're growing indoors and the plant is not self-pollinating? Well, you have to do it by hand, just like the birds and the bees do. You will need a small paintbrush or a Q-tip and then just go into the male flower, swish around a little bit to get some pollen on the brush or the Q-tip, and then go over to the female flower and dip it in. How do you know which are the male flowers and which are the female flowers? Usually the male flowers appear first and then the female flowers. The female flowers are easy to recognize. They're the ones that have the fruit behind them. The male flowers do not have any fruit behind their flowers. Also, if you peel back the petals of a male flower, you will see the male parts that are protruding. That is called the stamen. The female flower will often have a hole in the middle. It's basic anatomy and works pretty much the same for flowers as it does for humans. Another way to pollinate the flowers is to shake the plant rather than go from flower to flower with a paintbrush. That's what the wind does in nature, so you can do that indoors or run a fan to help with the air circulation so the pollen can distribute itself. Another method is to use an electric toothbrush and place it on the plant stems so that they vibrate and release the pollen into the air. If you pollinate correctly, you will be rewarded with a nice healthy vegetable. Here you can see my cucumber growing indoors very nicely, with the flower still attached. If a fruiting female flower, say that 10 times really fast, a fruiting female flower does not produce and instead shrivels up, then it is likely that it didn't get pollinated properly, as you can see here the shriveled up cucumber behind this female flower. Many tomato plants self-fertilize, so shaking the plant or using an electric toothbrush works fine on the tomato plants. But the cucumber plant needed more than just a shake-up, and I needed to go from flower to flower, and the ones I neglected shriveled up and died. Because I like to grow cucumbers indoors, I was looking for a plant that did not need to be hand-pollinated. I found a seedless cucumber variety called Diva from Mountain Valley Seed Company that will set fruit without needing to be pollinated. They call this a parthenocarpic cucumber, a word I hadn't known before I started looking for a cucumber plant that didn't need pollination. So I looked it up. Parthenocarpy. Parthenocarpy is the production of fruit without fertilization, and the Diva cucumber is said to be parthenocarpic. Well, that's it for pollination. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit the like button or the subscribe button, or both. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them below, and thank you for watching. Bye!